Greetings everybody, welcome to Innkeep Development Diary number 14. If you haven't seen my earlier videos, Innkeep is a game about running an inn in a fantasy setting, and the idea is that you're going to be serving ale, you're going to be looking after your guests, telling jokes, kind of trying to be a friendly, happy, nice fellow, but the dark side of it is that at night you're going into the rooms of your guests to steal things from them. So you're trying to figure out who has money during the day, and then at night you're going and trying to wiggle rings from fingers and steal things from backpacks and this kind of thing. What I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to just introduce about 10 months worth of work into finishing the actual inn itself. It's really getting close now to the point where I think probably 20-30 more hours work I'm moving on to game loop stuff primarily, so it's really an exciting milestone. And I've started off this by placing us where the player would be when they start a new game. So this is kind of an opportunity to talk a little bit about story. What you're seeing here of this very pixely graphics is, it's all just kind of placement holder stuff. So you'd have to imagine it looking a little bit better than this, and the red square would be you. And it's it's like a low fantasy setting, perhaps a little bit cliched now, but if you think of more recent fantasy work like Game of Thrones or The Witcher 3, you've got this wartime kind of scenario where there's a ravaged countryside, armies have passed through, there's been conflict, death, and through this is wandering you, the player character. Now, modelled on this kind of innkeeper person from Les Miserables, who it is said in the book, or I think in the stage production, made some money by picking through the bodies of the dead at Waterloo. Similarly, you may have this little intro video before this scene where you're getting a little bit of cash to start you off from some bodies at the end of a battle. So it's the aftermath of the war maybe, or it might still be lingering on somewhere, and you've got nowhere to go. And that's when you come across this inn. And if we step inside the inn, you'll see that it kind of changes and it becomes a UI piece, and you'll never again go outside the inn for the remainder of the game. You're now going to inhabit this inn, and of course this character here, this is you, but you'll be able to choose your appearance, and you'll probably find this place is quite damaged, so there'll be a hole in the roof and water pooling, and these chairs and tables and benches will have been broken up into wood. There'll be stuff strewn about you'll have to clean up, so it'll look a fair bit worse than it does right now. The innkeeper will be lying dead somewhere, and you'll assume the position of the innkeeper, basically. Not all at once suddenly that's your decision, but maybe somebody will turn up later and they'll ask if you've got a room, and you'll be like, why yes I do, come this way. And gradually you'll kind of revive this inn and the fortunes of this desolate region. That's kind of the idea, but this play space, I started reworking it a couple of years ago. It has taken a long time because I do work on this part-time, but it's getting to the point now, where it's almost ready, so I'm really excited to show off how things have improved. If you're interested in getting a little bit more in depth and seeing the process that it's taken, please do have a look at my earlier videos. If you look at the top, let's just focus on this UI piece. I'll just jump into a room up here. You can this is one of the things I actually want to show off, two things at once here, but you'll see that this window here is now reflecting the time of day, and as the sun is setting, there's no sun here yet, but as the sun is setting, the window as well kind of changes. So all of the bedrooms now have this feature added. There's a little bit of jankiness going on there with light maps, I'll talk about that later, but all of the bedrooms now have these lights. So if I was to go up, for example, over here as well, it's the same thing. So now it's nighttime, and you'll see that the sun's setting and the stars are coming up. And it's all happening very, very quickly. In game, you'd be playing a day for like 10-15 minutes before this happens, but I just wanted to showcase that right away. The idea with this UI at the top here is that it serves to let you know what time of day it is, maybe what's going on in terms of seasons, but also as players, guests walk along and approach the inn, then you'll be able to see them coming. So it'll act as a kind of a warning system too. And then I'm going to incorporate a few more features to it later on, which will be important. But yeah, so it helps give a sense of place and of time. I think that's pretty neat. So what else is new? I mean, what I showed in the last video, I think, was this cutaway system for the bedroom. So you'll see that in the past there was this kind of a faded out look for the bedrooms. Now when you go through, the wall cuts away and it kind of does this reveal of the geometry of what's inside. So you can see the wattle and daub detailing there, for example, of this wall, which is quite nice, and you'll see the detailing of the door and all of this kind of stuff. And I did that for that bedroom. One of the big jobs that I undertook after that was doing every single room. So there's 12 bedrooms, and every single one of these bedrooms now has this kind of cutaway. Well, that's interesting. You're going to see a few janky things and some bugs and stuff, so you've been forewarned. But yeah, effectively every single room. And it's got lots of different components. One is the actual sprite, the cutaway, and every single one of them is unique and needs to be uniquely done. Another is the way in which the rest of the room fades darker. So bright, dark, bright, dark. It really seems to help a lot focus the player's view on where you currently are, and that's something that I've done with all the rooms as well. That took quite a lot of work as well. And it was a bit of an opportunity to have some fun, like you can see with the geometry here of the interior of the chimney, and it helps you get that sense that it is a 3D space. If I open up and make visual what's going on here, you'll kind of see that it is these actually do take up space, so you do get pushed around it, but it still is looking a little flat. But when you go through the wall, suddenly it comes to life and you can see, aha. So it adds that extra bit of detail, a bit of nice feeling to it. What I've done at the same time is I looked at the kitchen and the stables, and I did the same thing. So these walls here all the way along have now got this really nice cutaway, which they didn't have before, and it kind of helps frame this main play space here. If I go through now, this has all been redone. So the textures themselves have all been improved, like massively. If you look, I'm really happy at how the floor textures turned out for these cobblestones. I added these doors to the stable which weren't here before, and then all of these stalls have been added. And every one of these stalls has its own kind of unique objects. So if I go in, for example, I can go behind and around, and every single one like this is kind of a place that you can go into. Later on, as I've talked about before, you'll be able to actually get guests to stay in these, or if you have wealthy guests, they're horses. And then over across we have the kitchen, and for some reason I've got some issues going on and it thinks it's daytime, but I have done all the work for the window transition here as well, so that's just jankiness. But the kitchen here now has a table, that's new, and it has this lovely fireplace, and this is where you're going to be actually doing some cooking and stuff in game. It'll be fleshed out quite a lot more than this, but it's got those core components in now. You might realize or notice that this is all kind of new as well. I've updated the whole way that the transition occurs, so this has all been really, really polished, and it's feeling really nice now, just the way those transitions work, and here as well. So that's some of the work that I'm most happy with, is just how fluid these transitions feel between the play spaces, and that definitely was not the case before. So one more transition to show off here out of all of these would be the cellar. So if I open the trapdoor and go down, I've got this lovely transition. Previously what happened was I wasn't drawing the stables anyway when you weren't in there, so it was simply drawing this cellar over black, over nothing, and it was very, very simple. Now I've kind of integrated, or I've been more consistent with the style of how things cut away to reveal things behind other things, so I've applied that logic to the cellar, and I think the effect is really nice. I'll just kind of go up and come back down again to show it off once more. There we go. So you can kind of see it cutting through the floor there. And, you know, later on I'll add a bit more detailing to the earth, and I'll add some shadow and a few more things here so it's not so bright down here, but that's kind of the idea. The cellar, of course, if you don't know, works as a kind of almost like a GUI, like an in-game GUI for organizing and managing your different barrels of this and that kind of drink. But yeah, I think this is a really nice part of the play space. So all 12 bedrooms have been done, the cellar's been updated and done, the kitchen here now done, the stables have been done. We've got this new UI here for time of day. We've got the time of day transitions. They're all in. And also this walkway here now, if I walk under it, this now will appear or disappear. Previously, I'm just going to brighten things up a bit. Previously this did not do that, but I've added that in. You'll see that the windows still think it's daytime, so that's the last bit of work to be done now, really, is just this wall here. And yeah, you will never be leaving, of course, again through here, but I will need to do a little bit of work for doors opening when guests appear. You might notice that there's some other there've been improvements elsewhere with the texture qualities for the floor, a little bit more detailing and so on and so forth, and that's the same for the kitchen floor too. But otherwise, probably one of the largest tasks was to make sure that all of the different seams and edges fit together properly. So where these doors are, for example, where stone meets stone, everything is now nice and kind of pixel perfect and tight, so there's been a lot of work going into that too. The other thing that I've been working on that you've kind of seen already is light maps. Previously there was no shadow under this walkway, and there still isn't on the other side. Obviously shadow around here is going to need to take into account the light that comes through these windows here, but I'm currently in the process of adding some kind of more depth to the play space with shadow, and this is what I've currently got working. How it actually works is that you can kind of see here, it's all pure 2D trickery, and it's one of the neat things when you start to get used to how to work in 2D. You have to come up with lots of little clever solutions. If I just drew a dark sprite over this area and then had my player character walk into it, at some point it would kind of be half over me, and the effect would be really quite strange. So instead of that, what I've got is a light map, and I'll just show it to you now. And what this does is, the brighter the color on the light map, the darker I'm going to be. So when I'm standing on it like this, you can see I'm darkest here now, and then it kind of brightens as I step out, actually like that. And so it's just picking up the values of this texture and then drawing me according to how bright it thinks I should be, like this. There we go. It's really quite effective, but what's special about it is this whole dark area as well is dynamic. So I can do things like, for example, open this door and you'll see the light of that bedroom spilling through. Now, of course, right now it's nighttime, so that shouldn't be happening. But imagine that it's daytime, and the light of this room is kind of spilling through into here. And so if I'm standing here, open, shut, you'd expect light to come through and make this area brighter and make me brighter, and it does. And that's all just done with a little bit of that 2D trickery magic, where you take into account, is the door open or not, which version of the sprites am I going to draw, this and that. And as it gets darker, I can use the same basic trickery to make these shadows weaker relative to elsewhere, because as it gets darker, it's not really going to be such a strong contrast between if you're standing here or if you're going to be standing here. It's going to be dark everywhere, so the shadows will actually get weaker as the whole place gets darker overall. That'll be incorporated too. But the same thing inside this bedroom. If I'm standing near the window, imagine that it's daytime again, but if I'm standing near the window, I'm quite bright. If I'm over here, I'm a fair bit darker. So that's all done with shadow mapping as well, as you can kind of see this one here. Yeah, so that's something that's still, I'm in the process of implementing it, so I haven't done it for a few different areas, but it's definitely coming along. I really like the look. The next thing I'll be doing will be adding that for things like the fireplace and candles on the tables and this and that, and having a really nice kind of evening scene with the different light sources in the game too. Part of what I'm preparing finally for that next stage is a kind of a global lighting system. So I'll just show you now. If I press a little button here, I can actually control the darkness of the whole play space, and you'll see that what is happening is every single sprite that's drawn on the screen is being darkened using some shaders, and I'm doing that individually because then I can have some control. I can do things like make this table here brighter, for example. And what I was doing previously was I was just like drawing a black kind of like a black screen over the whole view space and then cutting out little holes. And the problem with that is that, again, if I was standing over here, for example, and I had a little bit of light here, the light would be cutting across my character. You couldn't get that kind of differentiation in space. But if you directly take control of what is lit and what is not, then you can have that sense of, well, okay, I'm going to have some backlighting here, or if a person's standing here, I'm going to have them lit here. And you can jump in, and for certain special edge cases, you can do things in a very granular way. So it should look really nice when it's ready. Yeah, so what I'm looking at now, that's pretty much everything I want to show you to you here, but just a quick kind of summary of what you can be looking forward to for the next video. Number one is we're going to have a time transition kind of bar at the bottom of this GUI, which is going to track what time of day it is, and as it passes, as it kind of moves along, you'll be able to see very clearly what phase of day you're in and how much time is left. And I'm going to be adding in guests, so I'll just get somebody to come in now, because this is a work in progress, but an updated guest sprite here. So these little guys, I'm going to be getting them sitting at the tables properly and drinking ale, and I'm going to be getting all of that basic serving kind of working again, because it isn't right now. So right now I can pour a drink, but I can't actually give it to this poor fellow. And that's something that I want to be working on. After that, probably a little bit more work with the lighting system, inventory system, and then I'm going to begin work on conversation. So that'll be pretty exciting too. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope that you consider joining up to the mailing list if you haven't already, or following me on Twitter. If you would like to come and chat with me on Discord, I've started up a Discord channel recently too. Here he is, he's kind of smoking nothing right now. And we'll see. It should be really exciting to see what happens once I've got time to finally start working on the game loop and put aside endless slaving away over the environment. We're not yet there, not quite there yet, but it's feeling like I'm really on the home stretch now. Alright, thanks a lot guys, and I'll see you next time.